Have you ever heard red wine with red meat, white wine with white meat? Well, that's nonsense to a certain degree, and I'm going to explain why. I made this free tutorial video for you on the one thing that gives people headaches more than anything, food and wine pairing. So let's get into it. There are 3 criteria you must meet to have the best food and wine pairing experience. 1 is the weight, 2 is the intensity, and 3 are flavors. So let's go through each one in more detail. Weight, what does that mean? Well, heavy food gets heavy wine, light food gets light wine, and vice versa. Quite simple. So if you're having a beef stew, which is heavy, you're not going to want to pair it with champagne or Chardonnay or some light red wine or white wine. You want something that'll stand up to it, maybe Cabernet Sauvignon or a big red blend or Shiraz. If you have, say, a poached fish dish, right, that's very light with maybe a vinaigrette and a salad, well, you want something light as well. Maybe a Pinot Grigio, a light Sauvignon Blanc, or a lighter style of Chardonnay. 2 is intensity. If you have a spicy, powerful Thai curry dish, well, that's intense, right? That's powerful. You don't want to pair it with some light, delicate white wine or red wine like a Beaujolais or a sparkling wine or Pinot Grigio. You need something that'll stand up to it, such as a Sauvignon Blanc with plenty of fruit, or maybe a Riesling or Gewürztraminer that has plenty of fruit or some sweetness. And next is flavor. There's 2 ways to deal with flavor. You can either complement or contrast. Complementing is pairing similar flavors in the dish with the wine, and contrasting is, well, contrasting the flavors in the dish with the wine. Here's an example. If you have salmon with butter sauce, you could pair it with a rich, buttery, oaky Chardonnay. So you have a salmon dish that's rich and buttery, and you have a wine that's rich and buttery. See? They complement. Or you can contrast. Take that same salmon dish with butter sauce and pair it with a white wine with some acidity to cut through the richness of the dish. When pairing food and wine, you need to think of the dish as a whole. One of the things that drives me nuts is when I go to grocery stores or other places that sell wine and you see a tag under a wine, good with pork, or good with chicken, or good with seafood. Okay, what kind of pork? What kind of chicken? What kind of seafood? For an optimal food and wine pairing, you need to think of the dish as a whole, because just one element of the dish can change whether that dish and wine pair together well or not. I'm going to give you an example using one dish, and I'm going to change the sauce on this dish, and you're going to see. So the dish we're going to use for this example is salmon with asparagus. In the first example, think of salmon with asparagus and butter sauce. What can we pair that with? Well, that'll go great with a rich, buttery, oaky Chardonnay, just like the previous example. Or we can pair it with a Sauvignon Blanc, something that has some fruit. Or we can pair it with a white wine with some acidity to cut through that richness. But let's change the sauce, okay, and turn it into a spicy Thai curry sauce. So now you have salmon with asparagus and spicy Thai curry sauce. Well, spice and dry wine do not get along. So it's not going to work with that Chardonnay or the other whites we mentioned. So you need something with a lot of fruit or some sweetness, like maybe a Riesling or a Gewürztraminer. Okay, see, one element in the dish changed everything. Now let's change the sauce again. Take the same salmon and asparagus, but we're going to do a red wine sauce instead. Well, now you're not going to want to use that Chardonnay or that Riesling. You're going to want maybe a Pinot Noir or a Barbera or some other light to medium-bodied red, because it'll pair with the sauce. See there, one element changed everything. And here's some other random tips to help you. Spicy food needs really fruity or sweet wine. Okay, dry wines and spicy food do not get along together. Dry wines and acidic food do not get along together. Dry wines and sweet food do not get along together. Tip, when you're pairing dessert with dessert wine, the wine should be sweeter than the dessert. If you don't believe me, do this. Go to 7-Eleven, buy a Snickers bar or some other candy, and then buy a Coke. Take a bite of the candy, eat it, and then follow it up with the Coke or Sprite or whatever you drink. You're not going to taste the sweetness in the beverage because the food was sweeter. So when pairing dessert and wine, the wine needs to be sweeter than the dessert. How do you know when a food and wine pairing works and when it doesn't? Great question. When a food and wine pairing works well together, both the food and the wine will taste better. When they don't work, they're both going to taste worse. And the way you can tell is, let's say you take a bite of some food and then you follow it up with some wine that's not a good pairing. You're going to have like this harsh feeling on your throat that's not pleasant. I'm going to leave you with a really fun way to learn about wine. Get a group of friends together. Okay, and pick wine that you all like. So, for example, let's say that you and your friends like Cabernet Sauvignon. Everybody chip in some money and assign somebody to go to a wine store, somewhere where people are reputable and know their stuff. And tell the person, we are doing a Cabernet educational lesson party tonight. I want a textbook example, keyword, textbook example of a cab from the main regions in California, from Australia, and from South America. And when you do that, you could see how that same wine is different in each of these regions in the world. And it's really fun. You can get some food, some snacks to share while you're having it. And when you get people together, it doesn't feel like learning. It just feels like fun, but you are also learning. Right? The key here is getting textbook examples, because you want to make sure if you're getting a wine from, say, Napa Valley, that it's a good reference point of what a Napa Valley cab should be. Otherwise, your frame of reference is skewed. And that's a wrap.